I'm here at Lord's, appropriately, to discuss the findings of a new report that we've produced on global cricket sponsorship. The report looks at more than 780 deals from across the world and finds that sponsorship in cricket is now worth more than $400 million a year. The deals range from small county and club deals around the world to the major rights held by the likes of the ICC and the BCCI in India. The findings of the report show that more than half, at $227 million, of the total spend is accounted for by just 4 rights holders. That's the BCCI, the International Cricket Council, the ECB in England and Cricket Australia. One of the interesting aspects about cricket sponsorship at the moment is the differences there are between sponsorship in the West, i.e. Western countries such as Australia, England and New Zealand, and those in developing countries such as India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and the Caribbean. In the Western countries, sponsorship the sponsoring industries have been fairly typical. There have been financial services companies, car companies, alcohol, more recently quite a few gambling companies. Now, I would argue that this isn't a particularly good profile and spread of sponsors. Ideally, you'd want some slightly more exciting brands coming in there that can also help communicate the message of cricket. Such brands as media companies and telecoms companies would be ideal. And I think that Western countries in cricket really need to take this on board. They can really help to drive the image of the game by the sponsors that they work with. And to date, on the whole, they haven't been doing this. I think there is one good exception recently with the English Cricket Board signing a major sponsorship deal with Waitrose. Now, Waitrose is just a supermarket in some ways, but it's a supermarket with a very good image. It's got an image of quality, sophistication, and also it has the potential to distribute the message that English cricket wants to get out there through its website, through its stores and whatever. So that is one positive in Western cricket, but at club level it's the same old beer companies, banks, financial advisors, etc. And I think they really need to move on from there and start looking at some partnerships which will help them in more than just financial gain. They need to get out and communicate with a younger audience and have some brands that are relevant to younger audiences. In Asia and the Caribbean, on the other hand, there are quite a lot of telecom sponsors, for example, the Vodafone are there, Airtel, Leica Mobile in the Caribbean. And similarly, there are a lot of media companies, newspapers and TV companies are heavily involved in cricket sponsorship. Now this on the whole may look as though in those countries the sponsorship profile is very mature and the industry is really going somewhere. On the other hand, that most of those deals only last for a year and they're not really properly activated. So what we're seeing in the IPL in particular is a lot of very short-term deals with the clubs having to re-sign them a year later and the sponsors not really taking their rights on board, activating them, engaging the audience and making it work for both themselves and for the clubs. So in all areas of the globe, I would argue, where cricket is played and sponsorship is reasonably big, there really could do with been some changes and some more imagination to develop sponsorship. If we look at cricket sponsorship by nation, India at the moment is the leading country with multi-million-pound deals for the BCCI, the governing body in the country. That's both for its national team deals and for the IPL overall. The biggest deal there obviously at the moment is Pepsi's title sponsorship rights for the IPL, but there's also big deals for Vodafone, Yes Bank, Star Media, among others. The clubs in India, as previously mentioned, can command £6 million deals for just the few weeks that the IPL is on each year. Now those deals do last for a whole year, but really the main activation is just over a few weeks. Secondary deals start at around the $30,000 mark and go right up to $2 million for the Chennai Super Kings, and many of the clubs have got £1 million, £2 million deals as their primary deals. In England, the second biggest domestic cricket market, county level, there's an enormous amount of clutter. Many of the teams have got more than 20 deals, and a lot of them are local, and that's a good thing. You know, you don't want to abandon your local supporters, but there really is a need to move that model on to a more professional footing, to get a smaller number of core partners paying larger amounts, but activating the rights better for themselves and for the clubs. And at the moment, there's relatively few of those deals. You can think of the big naming rights deals such as Emirates at Lancashire and Kia at the Oval, and arguably Leeds Carnegie at Headingley. But beyond that, most of the deals in English cricket are relatively small value, and they don't really deliver much impact for either of the parties. And I think this is an area that could quite easily change with a more professional attitude and approach. Sponsorship of Australian cricket is quite similar to England in terms of its profile. There's a lot of banks, financial advisors, etc. The beer brands are quite big there, particularly Victoria Bitter. Despite the Australian government trying to reduce the dependence sport has on alcohol sponsorship, cricket's one of the sports that's retained alcohol. And to be fair to Victoria Bitter, they've done some really interesting activations over the past year or so. But on the whole, alcohol doesn't do a lot for sport other than bring in the money. I'm not against alcohol sponsorship, but I think one of the problems that clubs in particular have is that they can't talk to their audience through the sponsors. I mean, literally it's against the law in most countries for beer brands to talk to minors. So that is an area that I think needs looking at. Now, in most cases, the beer rights are actually pouring rights, where the brands get the rights to sell the beer at the stadia, and they get a limited amount of branding with it. But in some cases, those deals are bigger, and it's effectively preventing another sponsor coming in, doing something a lot more imaginative and communicating with the audience.